When I was 47 years old, my family held an intervention, not for drugs or alcohol for me. They sat in my living room, my parents, my siblings, even my grown children, and told me I was the problem. Too difficult, they said. Too demanding, too much. They gave me an ultimatum: change who I was or lose them all. I chose myself. And they walked out, every single one of them. For 3 years, I was completely alone. No calls, no holidays, no family. It almost destroyed me. Almost. But what they didn't know was that their abandonment would become the greatest gift I never asked for. Hello. Welcome to Hurt Stories. Let me tell you about my family. We were the kind of family that looked perfect from the outside. The kind that posed for Christmas cards in matching sweaters. The kind that hosted big holiday dinners with all the trimmings. The kind that people envied because we seemed so close, so loving, so together. My parents, Richard and Margaret, had been married for 50 years. They were the foundation, the pillars, the ones who had built this beautiful family from nothing. My father was a retired firefighter, a hero in our community. My mother was a school teacher who had taught half the town to read. They were good people, decent people, people who would give you the shirts off their backs. I had 2 siblings. My older brother, David, was the responsible one, a banker, a family man, the son my father was proud of. My younger sister, Rachel, was the free spirit, an artist, a traveler, the daughter my mother adored. And then there was me. The middle child, the peacemaker, the one who held everyone together. I loved my family with my whole heart. I would have done anything for them. And for most of my life, I did. When my father had a heart attack 10 years ago, I was the one who took leave from work to care for him. When my mother needed help after her hip replacement, I was the one who moved in for 6 weeks. When David's marriage was falling apart, I was the one who listened to him cry on the phone at midnight. When Rachel needed money for her art, I was the one who wrote the check, no questions asked. I was the fixer, the helper, the one who showed up. I had my own life, of course. I was married to a good man named Thomas for 22 years, until cancer took him. I had 2 children, Emily and Jack, who were grown now and building their own lives. I had a career as a nurse, a job I loved because it let me take care of people. Taking care of people was what I did. It was who I was, and my family was the center of that universe. But looking back now, I can see the patterns I missed, the ways I was taken for granted, the ways my needs were always secondary, the ways my family accepted my care but never really saw me. I remember one Thanksgiving years ago. I'd cooked the entire meal, turkey, stuffing, pies, everything, while my mother sat and watched and my sister scrolled through her phone. I'd spent 3 days preparing, and when dinner was served, no one said thank you. No one even noticed. They just ate and talked and laughed, and I sat at the end of the table, serving and clearing and being invisible. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I didn't need thanks. I was just happy to be with them, to take care of them, to be part of this beautiful family. I was lying, but I didn't know it yet. The first real crack came after Thomas died. He was my rock, my partner, my best friend. When he passed, I was shattered. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. I needed my family. I needed them to hold me up, to be there for me the way I'd always been there for them. They tried. For a while, they tried. My mother came over with casseroles. My sister called every few days. My brother sent flowers. My children flew in for the funeral. For a few weeks, I felt surrounded, supported, loved. But then life went on. For them, it went on. For me, it stopped. The calls became less frequent. The visits stopped. My mother was busy with her bridge club. My sister was traveling. My brother had his own family, his own problems. My children went back to their lives, their jobs, their cities far away. I was alone, completely, utterly alone. I tried to reach out. I called my mother, and she'd talk for 5 minutes before saying she had to go. I called my sister, and she'd promise to call back but never did. I called my brother, and he'd listen patiently, then change the subject to himself. I started to feel like a burden, like my grief was too much, my need too great, my presence too heavy. I started to pull back to hide my pain, to pretend I was fine. I wasn't fine. I was drowning, and my family was watching from the shore, occasionally waving, never diving in. The resentment grew slowly, like ivy covering a wall. I didn't notice it at first, but it was there, underneath everything, coloring every interaction, every conversation, every holiday. I started to see things differently. I started to notice that I was always the one giving, never receiving. Always the one calling, never being called. Always the one caring, never being cared for. I tried to talk about it, gently at first, then more directly. I told my mother I felt lonely. She said I should get out more. I told my sister I needed support. She said I was being dramatic. I told my brother I felt invisible. He said I was too sensitive. They didn't hear me. They didn't want to hear me. I was the fixer, the helper, the one who showed up. I wasn't supposed to need anything. I wasn't supposed to have problems. I was supposed to be fine, always fine, forever fine. I wasn't fine, and I was tired of pretending. It happened on a Sunday afternoon in October, 3 years after Thomas died, 2 years after I started trying to talk to my family about how I felt. My mother called and said they wanted to come over, all of them. My parents, my brother, my sister, my children. She said it was important. She said we needed to talk. I was nervous, but I was also hopeful. Maybe they'd finally heard me. Maybe they were coming to apologize, to reconnect, to be the family I needed. I cleaned the house. I made coffee and cookies. I sat in my living room, waiting, my heart pounding with anticipation. They arrived together, all 6 of them. They filed into my living room and sat in a semicircle facing me. My mother in the middle, my father next to her, my brother and sister on either side, my children slightly behind, like they were being protected. My mother spoke first. She said they were there because they loved me. She said they were worried about me. She said I'd changed since Thomas died, and not for the better. I opened my mouth to respond, but she held up her hand. She said I was too negative, too angry, too difficult to be around. She said I complained too much, that I always made everything about me, that I drained the joy out of every family gathering. She said they'd been talking, and they'd decided to have an intervention, not for drugs or alcohol, for me, for my attitude, for my personality. My sister spoke next. She said I'd always been like this, even as a child. Too sensitive, too needy, too much. She said she'd tried to be there for me, but I was exhausting. She needed a break. My brother nodded. He said I'd pushed everyone away with my constant complaining. He said I needed to take responsibility for my own happiness, instead of dumping my problems on everyone else. My father said nothing. He just stared at the floor. I looked at my children. Emily, my daughter, wouldn't meet my eyes. Jack, my son, was studying his hands. They said nothing. They were just there, silent witnesses to my destruction. My mother delivered the ultimatum. She said I needed to change. I needed to get therapy, to work on my attitude, to stop being so negative. If I didn't, they would have to distance themselves, for their own mental health. They would have to distance themselves, my family, my entire family, giving me a choice, change who I was or lose them all. I sat there in my living room, surrounded by the people I loved most, and I felt the world crack open beneath me. I tried to speak, to explain, to defend myself, but the words wouldn't come. I was drowning, and they were watching. Finally, I found my voice. It was small and shaky, but it was mine. I said I heard them. I said I understood, and then I said something that surprised even me. I said no. I said I wouldn't change who I was to make them comfortable. I said my grief was real, my pain was real, my needs were real. I said if they couldn't accept me as I was, then maybe they should go. My mother stood up. She looked at me with something like disappointment, like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. She said she was sorry I felt that way. She said she hoped I'd get help. She said they loved me, but they had to protect themselves. She walked out. My father followed, still silent. My brother followed. My sister followed. My children hesitated. Emily looked at me with tears in her eyes. She said she was sorry. She said she loved me, but she also left. Jack left too. He didn't say anything, he just walked. I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by coffee and cookies no one had touched, and I listened to the sound of their cars driving away. I was alone, completely, utterly, devastatingly alone. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I didn't leave the house. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, replaying that afternoon over and over, trying to understand how my family, could do this to me. I questioned everything. Was I too negative? Was I too much? Had I been the problem all along? Maybe they were right. Maybe I was broken. Maybe I deserved to be alone. The loneliness was physical. It was a weight on my chest, a hollow in my stomach, a ache in my bones. I'd never been so alone in my life. Not after Thomas died. I had hoped then, hoped that my family would be there. Now I had nothing, no one. I thought about ending it. I won't lie, I thought about it seriously. What was the point of going on? No one would miss me. No one would care. I was already invisible to them. I'd just be gone. But something stopped me. A tiny voice deep inside that said, not yet, not like this, not because of them. I held on, barely, but I held on. The turning point came on a Tuesday night. I was sitting on my bathroom floor, crying when I saw a photo on the counter. It was Thomas and me on our wedding day, laughing at something the photographer had said. We looked so happy, so alive, so full of love. I picked up the photo and held it to my chest, and I heard his voice in my head the way I used to hear it when he was alive. "Catherine," he'd say, "you're stronger than you know. Don't let them break you." I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in love. And I believe that Thomas's love was still with me, even then, even there on the bathroom floor. I got up, I washed my face, I made myself eat something. I went to bed, and the next morning I started to fight. Recovery wasn't dramatic. It was small, slow, painful steps. I started with therapy. I found a counselor named Dr. Patel who specialized in family trauma and grief. She listened to my story without judgment, without telling me I was too much or too negative. She just listened. And slowly, over months, she helped me see the truth. The truth was that my family had been dysfunctional for years. The truth was that I had been cast in a role, the fixer, the caretaker, the one who gave and never received. And when I stepped out of that role, when I needed something for myself, they couldn't handle it. The truth was that their intervention wasn't about me. It was about them. They couldn't handle my grief because it reminded them of their own mortality. They couldn't handle my needs because they'd never learned to meet anyone's needs but their own. They couldn't handle my pain because it made them uncomfortable. I wasn't the problem. I was the scapegoat. That realization was like a key turning in a lock. For years, I'd carried the weight of their disapproval, their disappointment, their rejection. I'd believed I was broken because they said I was, but they were wrong. They'd always been wrong. I started to rebuild, slowly, carefully, from the ground up. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who drifted away during my marriage, during my grief, during my years of being consumed by family. They welcomed me back with open arms. They'd missed me. They'd wondered where I'd gone. They were happy to have me back. I found new communities, a grief support group where people understood what I was going through, a book club where we talked about ideas instead of problems, a hiking group where we walked in silence and let nature heal us. I started to enjoy things again, reading, gardening, cooking, not for a crowd, just for me. I took a painting class. I learned to play the piano. I filled my life with small joys, tiny pleasures, moments of peace. And I started to think about my family, not with longing, not with grief, but with clarity. I saw them for what they were, flawed people, doing their best, causing harm without meaning to. I didn't hate them, I didn't forgive them, not yet, but I saw them. And I saw myself, not as the broken one, the difficult one, the problem, but as a survivor, as someone who had been through hell and was climbing out, hand over hand, toward the light. The first time I saw one of them was at a grocery store, about a year after the intervention. It was my sister, Rachel. She was standing in the produce section, examining avocados. Looking exactly the same as always, my heart stopped. My first instinct was to hide, to turn around, to flee, but something made me stay. She looked up, she saw me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she smiled, a tentative, uncertain smile. She walked toward me. She said hello. She said she'd missed me. She asked how I was. I told her the truth. I said it had been hard. I said I'd been in therapy. I said I was doing better. She nodded. She said she was glad. She said she'd thought about me. She said she hoped I was okay. There was a long pause. I could see her struggling, wanting to say more, not knowing how. I felt the old pull, the urge to fix, to comfort, to make it better. But I stopped myself. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I said it was good to see her. I wished her well, and I walked away. The next was my daughter, Emily. She called me 6 months after that. She said she wanted to talk. She said she was sorry. We met at a cafe. She cried. She said she'd been wrong to go along with the intervention. She said she'd been scared, confused, torn between her family and her mother. She said she'd made a terrible mistake. I listened. I believed her. She was young, only 25, and she'd been caught in something too big for her. I didn't blame her, but I also didn't pretend it was okay. I told her I loved her. I told her I forgave her. But I also told her that trust takes time to rebuild, and we would need to take it slow. She understood. We've been working on it ever since. My brother, David, never reached out. I heard through Emily that he thought I was overreacting, that I needed to get over it, that the intervention was for my own good. Some people never learn. My father died 2 years after the intervention. I got a call from my mother telling me the news. She asked if I'd come to the funeral. I said yes. It was strange being back in that house. Stranger still seeing them all again. My mother older and frailer. My brother stiff and uncomfortable. My sister nervous and apologetic. My son Jack, who'd been silent throughout, avoiding my eyes. The funeral was a blur. I sat in the back alone. No one sat with me. No one spoke to me. I was invisible again, just like old times. Afterward, my mother approached me. She said she was glad I came. She said my father had talked about me before he died. She said he regretted how things had ended. I didn't know what to feel about that. Regret. Such a small word for such a large wound. I thanked her for telling me. I said goodbye, and I left. Forgiveness is complicated. People think it's a switch you flip, a decision you make, a door you open. It's not. It's a process. A long, slow, painful process of letting go. I didn't forgive my family because they deserved it. I forgave them because I deserved peace. I thought about my father dying with regret. I thought about my mother, alone now in that big house. I thought about my sister, reaching out but not knowing how. I thought about my brother, stuck in his pride. I thought about my children trying to find their way back to me. They were all flawed. They all made mistakes. They all hurt me deeply, terribly. But they were also human. And humans are messy and broken and scared and wrong. I started writing letters. Not to send, just to write. Letters to each of them, saying everything I'd never said. The pain, the anger, the grief, the loss, I wrote until I had nothing left to say. And then, slowly, I started to let go. I let go of the need for them to understand. I let go of the hope that they'd apologize. I let go of the fantasy that we could go back to how things were. I accepted that the family I'd loved was gone, and it wasn't coming back. But I also accepted that I was still here, still standing, still alive, and that was enough. I forgave them, not in a grand gesture, not in a tearful reunion, just quietly, privately, in my own heart. I forgave them for my own sake, so I could stop carrying the weight of their betrayal. And then I moved on. The beautiful thing about losing your blood family is that it forces you to find your real family. I found mine in unexpected places. There was Sarah, my neighbor, who brought me soup when I was sick and stayed to talk. There was Mark from my grief group, who understood loss in a way no one else could. There was Linda from my book club, who became my closest friend. There was Tom from my hiking group, who asked me to coffee and then asked me to dinner and then asked me to be part of his life. Tom, I didn't expect to fall in love again. I thought that part of my life was over. But Tom was kind and patient and gentle. He didn't try to fix me. He just walked beside me. He listened to my stories without judgment. He held me when I cried. He made me laugh when I forgot how. We've been together for 3 years now. We don't live together. We both value our independence, but we're partners in every way that matters. He's my family, my chosen family. And then there are my children. Emily and I have rebuilt our relationship slowly and carefully. It's not perfect, it never will be, but it's real. She calls me every week. She visits when she can. She's even asked my advice about her own relationships, her own struggles. I'm her mother again, not just a memory. Jack is harder. He's still distant, still uncomfortable. He carries guilt, I think, for his silence during the intervention. I've told him I don't blame him, that he was young and scared. But he needs to forgive himself before he can fully come back to me. I'm waiting. I'll always wait. My mother calls sometimes. Brief conversations, surface level. She doesn't apologize and I don't ask. We talk about the weather, about her health, about nothing. It's not much, but it's something. It's enough. My sister sends Christmas cards. I send them back. We're polite, distant strangers who used to be family. My brother is silent. I've made peace with that. So here I am, 50 years old. Alone but not lonely, wounded but healed, broken but whole. My family's betrayal almost destroyed me. Almost. But almost is not the same as did. They took so much from me. My sense of belonging, my trust in love, my belief that family was forever. They took years of my life, years I spent grieving not just Thomas, but them. They took my peace, my joy, my hope. But they didn't take everything. They didn't take my strength. They didn't take my resilience. They didn't take my ability to love, to grow, to become. And they didn't take my future. That's mine, all mine. If you're listening to this and your family has hurt you, I want you to hear something. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are not too much. Your pain is real. Your needs are valid. Your feelings matter. And the people who can't see that, who can't meet you where you are, they are the ones with the problem, not you. You can survive this. You can rebuild. You can find a new family, a chosen family, people who see you and love you exactly as you are. It won't be easy. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done, but you can do it. I did. My family's betrayal almost destroyed me. Almost. But almost is not the same as did. I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still me. And that is the greatest victory of all. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.